Good evening, everyone, and welcome into Season 2, Episode 8 of the Forge Podcast, brought to you by Shotgun Sports Network Alabama of the Shotgun Sports Network. My name is Ryan Messer. We've got a lot to dive into this evening. The Bulls had their last regular season game series this past weekend. The Stallions wound up heading up to the Motor City to take on the Michigan Panthers. The Birmingham Barons opened up their regular season this past week, and we've just got a lot to dive into as we get ready for the Birmingham Stallions home opener this coming up weekend. But before we get too far, I want to thank you guys for watching, whether it's on Facebook or YouTube, or if you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Audible, iHeart, or more, wherever you're listening to us. But want to make sure you guys know our appreciation for all of your comments, shares, whatever. And if you do know anyone that doesn't know of this podcast and that likes the Birmingham pro sports, make sure you share it with them. We see the engagement. We see the more and more people are starting to realize that there's more sports here in Birmingham than people realize. And we're trying to bring that coverage to you as much as possible, because we know the legacy media is not going to continue, is not going to bring it to you as much as we are able to. So with that, we also want to thank Blue Spring Living Water with their naturally minerally enriched water. They continuously keeping us hydrated, and they're bottled right at the source, right over there in Blount County, Alabama. And there's no risk of contamination with transportation or anything like that, because it is bottled right at the source. And you can find it at your local grocer or at your home to get it delivered right to your home or office by going to bluespringlivingwater.com. And with that, this is episode 8, season 2 of the Forge Podcast. Start things off with the Birmingham Bulls, who had a few transactions this past week. On Thursday, they wound up waiving Jared Christie. Then on Friday, they wound up signing left winger Shane Murphy to a standard contract. On Saturday, they wound up bringing Ben Higgins back off the IR, but sending Jamie Dorsey right back on the IR. Unfortunately, as we're trying to get ready for the playoffs, we don't want to see anybody on IR. But we did have a series this past weekend with the Evansville Thunderbolts up there in Evansville. So we started out on Friday with Cole Cece in the net for the Thunderbolts and Stewie in for the Bulls. Things started early with the Thunderbolts scoring twice in the first 2 minutes of the game. First was just 47 seconds into the game, and then 40 seconds later they scored the next one. Then off of the following faceoff, Kyler Matthews wound up dropping gloves with Bronson Adams. And then 1:45 later, Colton Olnick was charged with a high stick. After successfully killing that penalty, the Bulls went on a power play for a high stick themselves. Then they were unable to capitalize with that, but with 8 left to play in the opening period, Colton Olnick wound up finding the back of the net. Then just 13:06 into the second, Phil Ledzianko was able to tie things up with a goal of his own. Then 1:35 later, Kyler Matthews was charged with a trip, and they wound up capitalizing on that just 5 seconds before the penalty expired. And then the third started with the Thunderbolts scoring just 43 seconds in. And just 12 seconds later, Jamie Dorsey wound up dropping gloves with Matt Dorsey, no relation, of the Thunderbolts. 49 seconds later, Andrew Ballant wound up finding the back of the net himself, cutting the deficit in half. And then with 9 to play in regulation, the Bulls went on a 4-3 advantage when Troy McTavish wound up from the Bulls, and Matt Dorsey and Will Vanderveen from the Thunderbolts were all charged with roughing. Then just 25 seconds later, McGregor St. Clair was able to tie things up with the power play goal. And they weren't able to close it out in overtime, but Nikita Kozarev was able to close it out in the fourth round of the shootout. So, and with that win, the Birmingham Bulls did secure home ice advantage for the first round of the playoffs and securing that number 4 seed in the playoffs. On Saturday, they took on the Thunderbolts again, and it started off with CC in the net for the Thunderbolts and Lotzian for the Bulls. Shane Murphy got things started with a goal just 6:15 into the game. And then 6:43 later, the Bulls went on the power play for a roughing. Unfortunately, they were actually able to get a shorthanded goal just 10 seconds into the power play. And then into the second, the Bulls went on the power play just 7:30 into the period, as the this time it was for a slash. They weren't able to capitalize, but Kip Ledzianko did score what would be the game-winning goal just 2 seconds after the power play expired. Just ending things there for the Bulls in the regular season. In the standings right now, it has Peoria Rivermen in first place. The Huntsville Havoc is in second. Roanoke Rail Yard Dogs was in third. The Bulls were in fourth. The Fayetteville Marksmen were in fifth. The Knoxville Ice Bears were in sixth. And then the Evansville Thunderbolts were in seventh. And Quad City Storm are in eighth. And as the playoffs go on, the Quad City Storm will be taking on Peoria Rivermen, with Peoria having home ice. The Evansville Thunderbolts will be taking on the Huntsville Havoc, with Huntsville having home ice. Knoxville Ice Bears will be taking on Roanoke Rail Yard Dogs in that series, for Roanoke having the home ice, and then Fayetteville and Birmingham with Birmingham having home ice there. Speaking of that series, we do have the game at Fayetteville on Friday, and then here on Saturday, and then if necessary, they will take on another game here on Sunday. But make sure you get out there and support your Bulls as they are trying to fight for their first President's Cup. So make sure you get out there, support them, whatever you have to do. We got a lot coming up this weekend, though. But speaking of what we got this weekend, the Birmingham Stallions, switching things over there. They wound up taking a trip up to Motor City to take on the Michigan Panthers. The Stallions got the ball first to start the game, and it started out with good field position after a good return by Dion Kane. Alex Magoo wound up popping his arm out of socket on the first play from scrimmage. They wound up putting Matt Corral in, and they wound up moving the ball pretty decently on the ground before things got stalled out on the Michigan 18-yard line. Mevis was able to hit a field goal from 36 yards. Pretty easy for him. But Birmingham was able to hold the Panthers and force them to punt on their next two possessions, with Birmingham having to punt as well. But the following drive, by the Stallions. They were moving the ball pretty well on the ground between Roundtree and Ricky Person. And Matt even scrambled to pick up a first down there. But they were deep into the Michigan territory. Um, but they wound up they intercepted Matt, unfortunately. On the ensuing possession, the Panthers were able to only pick up one first down before they wound up going 3-and-out again and being forced to punt. Davion Davis was able to return the punt for 33 yards into Michigan territory, setting the Stallions up with good field position there. And the Stallions were able to pound the ball, but wound up getting held to a 4th-and-1 before Coach Holtz decided to go for a chip shot field goal since the defense was holding really well. The Panthers didn't really have time to go anywhere before the end of the half there, but the Panthers did receive the second half kick and wound up swapping over to Bryce Perkins, who only picked up about 6 yards before A.J. Thomas wound up picking him off. Then Ricky wound up running it again, and a nice 12-yard pass to Jace wound up getting the Stallions set up 1st and goal from the 2. After a couple trademark T-bones from Coach Holtz, they were able to push it in for the touchdown. They did not capitalize on the 2-point conversion after Cole Schneider was called for a false start, moving the ball back. But on the ensuing drive, the Panthers were able to move the ball pretty well, but they actually got set up 1st and goal at the 4th. But this Stallions defense was not going to let that happen. They wound up putting up a goal line stand and wound up making them turn the ball over on downs. The Stallions were able to move the ball at will on the following drive, mixing it up between run and pass plays before Matt hit Dion for a 52-yard touchdown pass. They were again unable to capitalize on the 2-point conversion, though. Once again, the Panthers were able to move the ball really well before getting a touchdown, which was able to be get a 3-point conversion due to a roughing the passer penalty coming from the previous play. And that wound up cutting the lead in half. Then deep in their own zone after that kickoff, the Stallions wound up moving the ball really well before Matt Corral got picked off again. Luckily, the defense held them to 3-and-out again, forcing the punt. But they wound up muffing that punt and allowed Birmingham to burn as much clock as they could, putting it inside the 2-minute warning before Mevis wound up hitting another chip shot field goal. The Panthers were able to move the ball pretty well, but had to elect for a field goal with just 30 seconds left to give them a chance to try for the 4th and 12. But fortunately, Coach Chamberlain and his defense was able to stand firm and shut it out, setting Matt up for victory formation. My thoughts of this game, the defense stood strong. Coach Chamberlain was, and the entire coaching staff there, been doing a phenomenal job, especially with these the leadership of this team that we've seen with JoJo Tillery, Marcus Gates, all these guys that been here for a while, but especially these veterans that have been here for 2 or 3 years now. It's just good to see how well this team is just starting to come together, so much better than what we saw last week. Again, we didn't see Magoo, but one play where he got injured. But Matt was pretty on point for the most part, besides the 2 interceptions where he threw some dangerous balls there. But the O-line looked completely different from what we saw last week. But the Stallions are coming home this week to on Friday to take on the undefeated Arlington Renegades. So make sure you get out there. There's tickets. There's family 4 packs of tickets. Make sure you get out there. They're wearing red. They're having a championship celebration at the Finnick this Thursday. Where I know last year they got their rings and all. I'm not sure if that's what they're doing here, but the coach Holt's going to be there. The players going to be there. So but make sure when you go to the Stallions game on Friday night, wear red. They're going to have fireworks. Bring the whole family. We want to give this city, this team, a warm welcome back home and show them that we appreciate them winning championships. So make sure you get ready and be in that stadium. Switching things over to the Birmingham Barons, we were able to go to Media Day at Regents Field this past Wednesday, and we were actually able to catch up with Guillermo Quiros, the manager of the Barons this season. First, he talked about his initial thoughts of the team, and this is what he had to say.
It's a team of grinders. They played hard. They go about their business. They know what to do. Fundamentally sound. Our pitching staff strong. We have a couple, three actually first rounders that can throw the ball hard and actually locate fast with real well.
Then he discussed having to balance the individual development while also trying to compete in this league.
That's one of the new things the Chicago White Sox development system has been trying to do for the past 2-3 years. We're trying to create a winning mentality on these guys. It worked last year. 2 out of the 4 minor league teams went to the playoffs. The Barons ended up winning. Canopolis lost in the final game in the finals. So, you want to develop players the right way. You got to create that type of mentality on them. Compete, get better, be better.
Then he was asked if he still gets opening day jitters, and this is what he had to say.
There's no question. You have to. If you love the game, you have to get those butterflies in your stomach on a good way.
Lastly, we talked to him about being here in Birmingham and what that really means to him.
It's my first time here. I went through the all field once as a player, and just to be able to see this building, this facility, it takes you back. As a player, it was rare when we got to play at facilities like this. All these guys, they know they're lucky to be here and to be able to perform at a facility like this.
Then we got the opportunity to talk to Jacob Gonzalez. First, we asked him what happened midseason and what caused the slump there and what they did to resolve that.
Yeah, I think we kind of hit a little wall offensively. We stopped scoring there in our slump where we were losing, and I don't know. I think as the season came closer to the end and we knew we were in the playoffs, it was just kind of looking in within ourselves, oh, we kind of need to start hitting now. So I think it just clicked, and we all started bringing it back and enough to win.
Then we asked how the coaching staff of that team set them up for success to win the championship last season.
It was Sergio, Nikki, and Rosie, the three, our bench coach and our hitting coach. They're all have won and know what to do to win, and they never got honest enough. They were always not. They never got mad at us. They know how hard the game is, and they kept it calm the whole time, and so it made it easy to not worry when we were losing, to where we knew we could just come out of it at some point.
Last, we talked to him about his thoughts when DJ wound up hitting that walk-off hit in extras to win the Southern League Championship last year.
Yeah, it was awesome, especially winning off a walk-off is really cool, and super happy to win and super happy for him for getting the hit, and it was just cool to win. do a third champagne shower in the locker room.
It was all great interviews there. You can see those. We're gonna post those on the page later on. But on Friday, they wound up opening their regular season with the Knoxville Smokies. The Smokies got things started in the first with a three run second. Sorry. They wound up tacking on another in the third, making it 4-0. Then in the bottom of the fifth, Mario Camaletti wound up tripling to put himself in place for Jacob Burke to hit a sac fly to bring him home. In the bottom of the seventh, the Smokies wound up giving up a bases loaded walk to score a run for the Barons. And then Gonzo wound up clearing the bases when he got up to the plate by hitting a triple to give the Barons a 1-run lead. Then DJ Gladney gets up and hits a sac fly to bring home Gonzo. And then the Barons bullpen and defense were able to shut out the Smokies for the rest of the game for them to win it 6-4. In this game, the Smokies had 4 runs off of 9 hits. There were no errors, and they stranded 8. The Barons had 6 runs off of 11 hits. There were no errors, and they stranded 6. On Saturday, they took the Smokies again, and former first-round pick Hagen Smith started things out kind of rough, walking a couple, and then wound up allowing a Knoxville score to hit the scoreboard first off of a wild pitch. And then in the bottom of the first, we did see catcher Omar Narez wound up doubling to bring in DJ Gladney and Wilfred Veras. Then Omar Colas wound up hitting a 2-run homer to bring in Omar. But that was about all the luck the Barons had in that one, as the Smokies were able to get 2 in the 7th and 3 in the 9th to take the lead. And the Barons just couldn't wake the bats up as they wound up splitting the series with the Smokies a game apiece. But they wound up having to cancel the Sunday game due to the weather. So they're going to make that up later on in the season there. So the totals for this game were the Smokies with the 6 runs off of 3 hits. There were no errors, and they stranded 6. The Barons had 4 runs off of 9 hits. There was 1 error, and they stranded 8. They're actually headed up to Chattown right now in Chattanooga to take on the Lookouts this week, and they're actually going to be playing right about now. So make sure you catch them when they get back, or if you follow them on the MLB TV, whatever, you can check it out there. But in closing, we've got the home opener for the Stallions this coming up Friday. The championship celebration on Thursday at the Finnick. The Bulls are getting ready for the playoffs this coming up Friday and through the weekend. And then the Legion is back in town on Sunday. So make sure you get out there if you have the opportunity. But that's about all we've got for this week. Make sure you guys get to a game. Whether it's the Stallions, the Bulls, or the Legion. We've got all of them here this weekend. So, but that's about all we got for this week. You guys have a great night. See you next time.